This whole entire controversy around Helldivers 2 is so dumb because the vast majority of people complaining and whining about this particular thing, about them requiring you to have a PSN account in order to keep playing, the vast majority of them are hypocrites. Because if you have no problem with Microsoft requiring you to have a Microsoft account in order to play all of their games on PC, but you are crying and whining about what Sony was doing with Helldivers 2, you're a clown. Straight up, that's what you are. I mean, it's just the cool thing right now to hate on Sony and to praise everything Microsoft does, so that's why there's this double standard here. But never mind Microsoft, how about all these other games? Grand Theft Auto Online, you have to have a Rockstar account in order to play that. Any game published by Ubisoft, if you want to play it on PC, you have to have a Uplay account linked up to that. Any game made by EA, you have to have an EA account. People are, at the end of the day, fine with this, and I think that, Sony backtracked. But if they didn't, I don't think it really would have had that much of an effect on Helldivers 2 because there really is no actual fundamental difference between what Sony was trying to do with Helldivers and what literally every other major third-party publisher does with their games on PC. Now, the issue where there are people who were able to play Helldivers 2, but they live in a country where PSN is not available, so if that went through, they would no longer have access to the game. In those cases, yes, absolutely there is reason for outrage, but there is a very good chance if you live in a country where you can't have PSN, you probably also live in a country where you don't have Xbox or you don't have anything else. So again, where was all this outrage when Microsoft forced people to have a Microsoft account to play their games on PC? There is no difference, and if you try to say that there is, then you expose yourself as a Microsoft fanboy or just someone who has just a huge hate boner against Sony and holds them to a much higher standard than literally every other company in the video game industry. So, you can be critical of this, and you can be upset, and you can say all these things, but in order for you to actually have a valid take and a valid opinion on this, you better not be playing the MCC on PC, you better not be playing GTA Online on PC, you better not be playing any game that requires a third-party account. And sure, there are some people out there that actually don't buy any games that require a third-party account, so great for you for being consistent with your beliefs, but that only represents 2% of the people who actually bitched and complained about this entire thing. And honestly, I don't see the big deal in it. Not only because it's pretty much an industry standard on PC at this point, at least when we're talking about AAA games, but I don't really care. And the whole thing with I don't trust Sony with my information because they get hacked. Bro, they got hacked in 2011, get over it. Really? We're gonna pretend like Sony gets hacked so much more than Valve and Microsoft at this point? They definitely don't. I want to remain anonymous, though. I don't want to give Sony my first and last name, okay? But you do have to give Valve your first and last name and a date of birth if you have a Steam account. And presumably you purchased Helldivers 2 with your credit card. So, anonymous? Really? That's what you're trying to talk about? Being anonymous and not having your information out there? Give me a break. And it's not like Facebook where they try to get you to send them a photo ID to prove that you're really who you say you are. With PlayStation, it's pretty easy to create a fake account with a fake name and all that kind of stuff. So that ain't a valid argument. The reason why this is so annoying, the hypocrisy is a big part of it, because the gaming community is mostly just a bunch of hypocritical crybabies, and I just hate hypocrisy. I really do. I hate it. I try to be consistent with my own views and beliefs. When I complain about $70 games and I complain about modern gaming, do you see many modern games that I put up on my channel? WWE 2K24 is the game that you see in this gameplay. That is literally the only new game that I bought since WWE 2K23 last year. And before that, it was 2K22. So I really just buy WWE games when they come out. And they charge $60 on PC, not $70. So yeah, I don't pay $70 for games. I talk and complain about $70 games, but I don't pay $70 for games. Everything I talk about, I practice what I preach. And yes, when it comes to this issue, I don't really think twice when I play a game and it says you need to have an account with this thing in order to play it. I'm like, okay, It's annoying and I don't like it, but it's far from the worst thing to deal with in modern AAA gaming. I don't think it's nearly as egregious as battle passes, overpriced DLC, $70 price tag on games that aren't worth it, turning every game into a live service. Like, there are things that are actually worth your energy and attention. This is certainly not one of those things. You know, there are times where there is a collective effort within the video game community when they are so outraged and pissed off over something and they want a company to change course and to reverse their policy. And guess what? A lot of the time, those efforts are successful. The biggest example of that would probably be the monetization of Star Wars Battlefront 2, but there are a number of other examples where they actually, meaningful change is created as a result of people expressing their frustration and threaten to boycott if things aren't changed. There's just so much worse things going on in video games. There's so much worse things that companies do that don't get a fraction of the amount of outrage that Sony got over having PC gamers have to have a PlayStation account to play the game. Not PlayStation Plus, just a PlayStation account. So, I could see if it was like, you have to pay to play this online, then it's like, yeah, go fuck yourself, and I'd be totally on board with the boycott movement, but boycotting over a fucking third-party account just seems like the most asinine and useless thing that I can think of people boycotting over. And I'm someone who doesn't have a dog in this race at all. I have 0 hours played for Helldivers 2. I have never played Helldivers 2. I have not played on PlayStation since probably like 2018. I've played exclusively on my gaming PC, which I need to upgrade very soon because it is getting outdated, so I'm going to have to pretty much replace everything at this point. I can play all the modern games, it's just getting to a point where it's about time for an upgrade. And I'd rather spend money upgrading my PC than buying a useless console, because console gaming is useless and just completely obsolete in 2024. I still don't understand how anybody plays on a console these days and doesn't realize that they're being completely scammed. I used to be a PlayStation guy, but I clearly am not anymore. Go to my PlayStation account and you will see no recent activity whatsoever. And I'm only going out of my way of saying this because those of you who have watched my channel for a long time know this to be true, but, all the new viewers coming in, they're going to accuse me of being a Sony fanboy, someone who's just gonna stick up for Sony no matter what. Bro, even on Steam, I don't really have a whole lot of PlayStation games in my library, if any, actually. I don't think I have a single one. So, definitely no Sony fanboy, nor am I a Helldivers fanboy, but I gotta call bullshit when I see it. You guys know that's one thing that I've always done consistently over the years. Sometimes you guys love it, and, that's the thing that brought you to this channel in the first place, but other times I say something that will turn most of my subscribers against me. And, it's usually a respectful thing, though. My subscribers are pretty level-headed and cool people, but you guys won't be afraid to leave a dislike, even though I don't even know that that is even, a thing that matters anymore. I know there's, extensions you could do to see the dislikes, but I personally don't care. If a video has 20% likes and 80% dislikes, I remember what stood out to me the most years ago. I made a video talking about how Google Stadia sucks and they're going out of business very soon. This was back in 2021, I believe. Yeah. And they eventually did shut down in 2023. But that video got 40% likes and 60% dislikes. But you know what? I didn't give a fuck because I knew that what I was saying was true. People can be mad all they want. People don't like to hear what they don't want to hear. Especially if, you're being called a hypocrite, a lot of people are going to take that personally or are not going to like that, but that's exactly what you are. I would say the vast majority of people are who were part of this recent crusade against Sony. And the reality is Sony could have just ignored all this shit and nothing would have happened to Helldivers 2, but I guess they're, it doesn't really hurt them. They're still making money out of the game. It's just, it would have been a nice thing, I guess, to be oh, look at all these PSN accounts that we've had. Look at how PlayStation Network's growing. It just would have been a nice little statistic they could have thrown to the shareholders and see how much the PlayStation Network is gaining users. That's really the main purpose of that. The whole requiring people to have it. It's such a meaningless thing at the end of the day that I am genuinely surprised that this was such a huge thing. I really am. It really makes no sense. And it's another example of how I feel just so isolated and disconnected from the video game community and gaming culture. Like the type of the things that people get upset about and the things that people are willing to put up with. They're all things that I couldn't care less about or I want nothing to do with. I don't really watch any video game commentary channels anymore or any gaming content really. Like, I just kind of just tune all of it out because it's just gotten to a ridiculous point now. It's just gotten so tribalistic and over the top. I feel like I'm watching political commentary, except it's people talking about technology and which electronic toy is the best. Like, I can't take it seriously anymore. It was something I cared about when I was like 14, 15. Now, as an adult, I've moved on. And the recent discourse around Helldivers 2 is a great example of why I decided to do that and why it was the right thing to do. I mean, there's a reason why my channel isn't very active anymore, because I just can't anymore. I'm just sick and tired of these Xbox fanboys, PlayStation fanboys, you know, like, they used to be funny at just how pathetic they were spending so much time on this meaningless shit, but now it's just sad, and it's kind of just run its course, and I really don't want to deal with it anymore.